This is KGW TV, Channel 8, Portland.
This is KGW Radio, Portland. First on your dial at 620.
Behind the dial of your radio, behind the screen of your television set, there's an amazing story that could happen only in an age of electronics, this time in which we live. Instant communication, people-to-people, worldwide communication, of the human voice and the written word in the face of the speaker. All this has become a commonplace event. Most of us take scientific miracles like these for granted. Electricity, the telephone, motion picture film, audio and videotape machines. But we really don't have to know how these things work in order to enjoy them. We aren't required to know the scientific principles involved or the evolution of the many components in order to appreciate finding out how a local channel works and how a commercial station is successfully operated in the public interest. In this next half hour, you will look behind the screen into one small part of this amazing story called Radio and Television.
Building for the future. KGW Television, Channel 8, and KGW Radio 620. Member of the Crown Radio and Television Station.
Hello, I'm Tom Dargan, Director of Programming for KGW TV, here to invite you on a 6-camera tour of Broadcast Center. But first, I'd like to have you meet our Vice President and General Manager, Mr. Ansel Payne.
Thank you, Tom. This building is certainly more than an architectural triumph. It represents the King Broadcasting Company's belief in local and community in which it is established. The building also stands as a tribute to the broadcasting philosophy established by Mrs. A. Scott Bullitt and her family. From the beginning, it has been the company's objective to build an institution of communications which merits the confidence and the respect of the people of the Pacific Northwest by offering the best quality of service and program fare. The station that in the news tells the truth, in its selling can be trusted, and in its promises can be believed. Finally, the building stands as a milestone in the lives of those staff members continuously associated with the television station since it went on the air. Walter Wagstaff, Tom Dargan, John Pendel, Gloria Chandler, Clara Hannawald, Ken Yandel, and many others whom you will meet. So let's get started with the tour.
The shape of a building is determined by its use and its environment. The design of Broadcast Center began with a certain amount of electronic equipment and the space it required. Step by step, the design grew as it fulfilled operational, space, and traffic pattern requirements of 150 people working in modern radio and television. Once the function was adequately housed, the structure took shape almost by itself. The choice of building materials then helped to provide texture and color. Even free space, as seen in and around the lobby, is utilized as a decorative feature, with striking columns, some rising out of reflection pools. The guiding principles were beauty, utility, efficiency, and pleasant working conditions for every employee.
In order to start our tour properly, let's meet our architect, J. William Demick of the firm of Fred Bassetti and Company. Bill, what were some of the unusual problems you encountered in designing Broadcast Center?
Well, Tom, the structural solution certainly was a problem, and that was dictated primarily by the great degree of flexibility that we had to put into the building. We have up to 70-foot roof spans, and the 3-inch concrete folded plate roof was chosen as the most economical and efficient solution to this problem. And since this is a fully air-conditioned building, it's important to stop the rays of the sun before they enter the building, hence the concrete eyebrows. These do the same thing as a canvas awning, but obviously do not have the replacement cost and the maintenance cost of canvas.
Bill, people are struck by our entry. Could you tell us something of its design?
Well, the exterior spaces and the lobby pool, or the pools and the lobby, were designed to present a pleasant experience in the driving past or walking into the building. And the brick material on the exterior face is not the usual brick veneer, but a 3/4-inch brick tile, which reduced weight and cost considerably. The interior colors are basically off-white with 12 accent colors. Tom, I'd like to say that Fred Bassetti and Company is proud of this building, and we hope that it fulfills its primary responsibility, and that is that it serves the owner and KGW staff and the community well.
Thank you very much, Bill.
The story of construction begins in the fall of 1963 with the excavation. 25,000 cubic yards of dirt was moved for the basement level and the foundation. Forms were built, and the pouring began, using some 5,000 yards of concrete. Exceeding the most rigid requirements of the building code, 130 tons of steel was used to reinforce the strength of the concrete. The main level floors were then poured. Besides the entrance and lobby, this level includes Studio A, Studio B, Master Control, and the announcer's booth. The film library, scenery and property storage, and engineering offices bring the total floor space to 22,000 square feet on the first level. The second level has almost 19,000 square feet of working floor space for KGW Radio, accounting, TV sales, program planning and production, management offices, studio control room, the newsroom, studio viewing rooms, and a restaurant. The folded plate roof of concrete slab went up as soon as the supporting columns were completed. Once secured, the roof was coated with a synthetic rubber material. The concrete awnings and the walls came next, and the final lines of the building became visible for the first time. It was at this point that the long, detailed process of installing electronic equipment and all the wiring began. It has taken approximately 100 miles of wire and cable for the electronic equipment and 5 miles of wire for the lighting, for a staggering total of 105 miles of wire. With such a maze, you can imagine the feeling of triumph when the equipment first produced a picture of exceptional quality.
The station manager of KGW TV is Mr. Walter Wagstaff, who has been active in radio and television for almost 34 years. KGW TV has been on the air for over 8.5 years, and each one of those years has been one of progress.
Tom, these have been 8.5 very gratifying years. We have, believe, become a part of community life and like to think it's an important part. KGW TV has enjoyed the finest cooperation from community leaders, advertisers, and others who have helped us to progress. Above all, we appreciate the loyalty of our viewers and are determined to bend every effort to deserve that loyalty by living up to our responsibilities in public service areas and by bringing to the public the very best programming in entertainment, education, public affairs, and culture that our abilities and resources can command. We want to feel entitled to loyalty and support. And in this connection, let me say that we are most sensitive to expressions from the public. Careful attention is paid to such expressions, whether they come by telephone, letter, or whatnot. We receive all too few and would like to receive more. Please let us have your comments, whether they be brickbats or bouquets. All such expressions weigh heavily in our thinking and planning, and we'd like to hear from you more often. Another important obligation is to keep the public informed as to what we are doing. The finest program on earth is wasted in thin air unless the public knows about it and has the opportunity to tune in. To keep the public informed is the responsibility of KGW TV's promotion and publicity director, Mr. Richard Wright.
You know, I think most people regard television as an entertainment and news medium, but we mustn't forget that it's also a business.
How true, Tom. Broadcasting is supported by advertising. It, like the American press, has remained free only because it pays its own way. However, necessary as advertising is, it must be honestly presented. Thus, ever since its inception, KGW TV has subscribed and adhered to the standards of practice set forth in the Code of the National Association of Broadcasters. The department responsible for bringing in the revenue is under the direction of KGW TV General Sales Manager, Mr. John Pindell.
Thank you, Mr. Wagstaff.
We are able to fulfill our obligation to serve our community under our federal license and in keeping with our own philosophy because we are fortunately privileged to operate under the American system of free enterprise. This also enables us to make a substantial contribution to Oregon's and southwestern Washington's economic stability and growth by assisting in the movement of goods into the hands of the consumer as well as providing a substantial payroll. We have three major sources of revenue. Network, for which we are compensated by our network, NBC, for the time they use. Local sales, through which we sell time to Portland area advertisers. And national business, which produces the largest share of our revenue. Now here is a brief look at the TV sales department facilities and staff which make it possible for us to operate successfully. This is the sales traffic department. In other words, our inventory control. Here we keep track of what is sold and what is available for sale. It is also a communication center. Sales service is one of our sales support activities. Its principal purpose is to backstop the local salesman. The TV sales coordinator is responsible for supervising the sales traffic function, all office procedures, and our day-to-day contact via teletype and long-distance phone with our 12 national sales offices throughout the country. On the right, you will see the offices of the local salesman. The report to the local sales manager, whose office is on your left. Next, we have the office of the commercial services manager, who is responsible for local contacts on our national business and supervision of our merchandising department, headed up by our merchandising manager. Merchandising is another of our sales support functions whose purpose is to help ensure the success of advertising campaigns placed on KGW TV. The facilities provided by our new building have already enabled us to provide more effective and efficient service to our customers, the local and national advertisers.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Keeping track of time sold is the responsibility of the accounting department, managed by Jim Kine. These pleasant offices are in the northwest corner of the second floor, with windows looking out toward the West Hill. Besides their work with billing, the accounting department keeps a record of purchases, pays our bills, and manages the payroll.
The programming department here at KGW Television is composed of 6 major areas or sections. One part of programming comes to us from NBC, the network programs. The other 5 are part of our own operation and are provided space and facilities here in this part of our new building. Working with me are the 5 section heads for local programs. Let's talk first to our Public Service and Educational Director, Miss Gloria Chandler.
KGW TV has an extensive program of public service and education planned for Oregon and southwestern Washington. For the most part, this program is presented by people of the communities in our viewing area. We work with the different groups, organizations, and institutions in their planning so that the material will best suit the medium of television. Once planned, the program is then given time in our schedule, studio facilities, and a full crew of studio technicians and electronic engineers. Over the 8.5 years that KGW TV has been on the air, literally thousands of adults, young people, and children have participated in programs such as What's New at School, Summer Campus, What's Right Today, Fellow Citizens Challenge a Book, Perspectives 3, To Your Help, This is the Law, Merry-Go-Round, The Armsy Show, Give Thee Peace, Televenture Tales, Teen Scene, and Sound of the Bible, and many, many more. This new building will provide an even better facility for developing programs such as these.
Another section of our department is headed by our program operations manager, Leroy Smith, who is in charge of all non-live production and operations. Everything from an identification slide with our call letters to the copy for an announcer's station break. Why don't you take it from there, Smitty?
Well, Tom, let's start in our new film library and talk about the film editor who catalogs and files all of our videotape and our film. The film editor spends most of his time with program film. very carefully planning the stop-downs for announcements in our feature full-length movies and the hour and half-hour programs. All program tapes and films are stored here, with only one day's schedule of tape and film brought out at a time, and then is set up in chronological sequence for the projectionists in master control. The on-the-air operation involves many people, and their activity is coordinated from this new office, designed specifically for the creation of the daily operations log. Every slide and announcement film and videotape, both public service and commercial, is numbered, and the numbers are on file here to be recorded on our log. The daily log is a plan of action for everybody involved in operations, particularly the engineers and master control. No announcement or program goes on the air that is not previously logged in this room. Every single item of both audio and video is timed to the second. Any variation from this plan must be recorded on the master log. The director for all of the activity in master control is our announcer in his soundproof studio. Not only does he announce the station breaks, but also rolls film, changes slides, takes network, and keeps the station on time. This is only a small part of program operations. We'll see more a little bit later on.
The most recently created section of our programming department is Special Features, which is headed by Robert McBride.
The production of documentary films and special features is a four-phase operation: research, writing, filming, and film editing. We are at present working on several features, each in various stages of production. Films dealing with theater, mental illness, religion, and others. Our special programs are supplemented by a heavy schedule of documentaries produced by NBC, giving Channel 8 a top position in this area. Through its documentaries, KGW TV attempts to be a good citizen, to make a contribution to the community. Sometimes we intend to inform or to focus public attention, as on aid to dependent children in Wednesday's Child. We also hope to arouse people to action, to ask for legislation curbing pollution in Pollution in Paradise, protecting the consumer in The Golden Fleece, and in the film To Grab a Ring, to make our political system more effective and democratic at the local level. To date, all of our special features have led directly to positive action of some kind on the part of legislators and public-minded citizens.
Next, a gentleman whom you might recognize, our news director, Richard Ross.
Our new facilities are quite modern and designed to give us better coverage of the news. We have in the ceiling of the newsroom, for example, loudspeakers that are there to feed us messages of city and county police, fire department radio dispatchers, and television monitors for NBC News on the air and closed circuit, and for watching playbacks from our own master control. And adjacent to KGW Radio News are the teletype machines, providing news stories from the two-wire services 24 hours a day, and the Unifax, giving us facsimiles of news photographs from around the world. Many of our local stories are planned events, which have been written into our Futures book when we are notified of the event. This book is checked many times each hour. The controls on the counter are for the police and fire radio and the 3 TV monitors. When the news film comes back from the processors, members of our staff look at the film in a projection room designed for our use. Assistant News Director Ivan Smith and Forrest Amson, news analyst, are double-checking the facts on a film here. Generally, everybody on the staff looks at all the film, and particularly the TV director, who will edit the film to the story we have written. The director then selects the film, so many seconds of each sequence as designated on the copy we have given him. Here you see Rick Myers matching words with pictures along with Tom Craven. The cabinets along the wall are for film storage. All films used on our 4 daily news shows for the current year are filed here, as are the scripts for every program. We now have 8.5 years of TV news film and program scripts for reference as needed. Our staff is a large one, but the demands of the full news operation requires considerable manpower. Doug Lemire is talking with the 2 newest members of our staff, Linda Gist and George Bell. As a service to the public, it's our responsibility to present the news honestly and accurately, and to maintain a balance between national and international, local and regional stories.
Participating in all of our local live production is the production section headed by production manager Ken Yandel. What do your people think of the new facilities, Ken?
Well, we find producing programs is a pleasure. All of our equipment and our space is entirely new. Let's take a look at Studio A.
This is the largest of our two studios. Newsbeat and Nightbeat are telecast from here, and most of our public service shows are videotaped in this studio. We present such a variety of programs here at Channel 8 that it is necessary to have a lighting system capable of handling every situation. Ever since we moved into this building, we have been using a rear screen projector as part of the news. The facsimile pictures, which Dick Ross mentioned earlier, are converted to slides and projected from behind this set. Now, one thing that we're really proud of here is this large scenery and property storage room. The enclosed section on the right is for properties. All sorts of small props, from feathers to floor lamps and samples of products used on commercials. On the left are scenery racks filled with sets for many of our shows. Our building is so designed that we can drive cars and trucks through both studios. This is an important feature not only for commercials, but for our early morning color show, Telescope. Connie Worth and R.H. Peck have had many unusual features on their program. A tour through a mobile home, an interview with an elephant, a close look at a hydroplane, and many others. Here in the new building, we can bring them all right into the studio. Peck's Fun Farm setting was built and painted in our new scene construction department, where our production staff has all the tools required for the building of sets. With all of our new facilities, we feel that we can produce the best in sight and sound.
Thank you, Ken. Speaking of sound, I'm now in KGW Radio, which has been pioneering in broadcasting innovation since 1922. As another hallmark of its integrity, KGW is one of the few radio stations in America whose call letters have remained unchanged for over 40 years. Mr. Pat Crafton is the manager of KGW Radio, and he can tell us about his new facilities.
Since 1922, tremendous changes have taken place in radio. We're worldwide in our coverage. We enjoy a flexibility of programming never conceived before. And the impact also has changed. Today in the United States, there are more radios, 228 million of them, than there are people, of whom the census, or rather of whom there are 193 million people according to the census. The changes, however, do require that you have a modern facility such as we have at Broadcast Center. We have separate studios for programming, for news production, music libraries, and of course we have sales. Here is Joe Clifford, our sales manager, to tell you about that operation.
Thank you, Pat. Our most important commodity is sound. Pleasing music to satisfy the mass audience, entertaining personalities, believable news with authority. The sales department is responsible for the integration of commercial announcements within the structure of this sound. We are happy for and proud of the great number of advertisers that have found KGW Radio an effective vehicle for their commercial messages. We in sales are convinced that advertising commercials are, for practical purposes, public service, bringing vital product and sales information to the attention of the buying public.
Commercial radio has made possible forms of news far different from that which we had before. Not just formal newscasts, but news in depth, worldwide coverage such as the Gemini shots, and even little things like traffic advisory. Here is Jim Miller, our news director, to tell you about it.
Thanks, Pat. Radio news tries wherever possible to bring news in the voices of news makers. We call these at KGW Radio first-person reports. Now, to facilitate getting these on the air quickly and accurately, we have surrounded our newsroom with the very latest in recording equipment. We have 2 RCA reel-type record and playback units, plus 2 cartridge record and playback instruments. Well, the cartridges make for easy and instant selection of individual news stories in a moment's time. Our new console is completely remote control, providing individual selection of microphone or record mode with the touch of a button. Our news operation reaches around the world with NBC and both major wire services. We link the local and regional scenes to our own facilities and those of our sister stations, KING in Seattle and KREM in Spokane.
Today's average American family owns 4 radios, and yet 56% of all of the listening is done away from home. The greatest part, of course, of the listening is to what we call programming, and here's Wes Lynch, our program manager.
Thank you, Pat. At KGW Radio, our programming is designed to adequately reflect the overall life of our community. In programming, we integrate sales, news, music, public service programming and special NBC fare into a balanced offering of information and entertainment. Our music is carefully screened prior to airing to ensure that only the best of today's popular music is played. All albums are cleared to eliminate anything not in the realm of good taste. Let's move across the hall and take a look at the nerve center of this whole complex, Studio A. Here, the air personality coordinates all the planning into what we hope will be a pleasant, entertaining program. Across the hall is KGW's special production facility. And in this facility, all special programs and features are prepared for you, the listener. You know, one of the beauties of KGW's new broadcast center is that we have as yet not discovered the limitations of our equipment or our facility. And that means that each day we are able to give you, the listener, a polished, better product.
Whether you're listening at home or away from home, we hope that you'll take with you your radio and enjoy Radio on the Go at 620. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Pat. When we began this program, I said that you don't have to understand electronics to enjoy radio and television, and that's certainly true. But once you're down here in Master Control, you do understand that electronics are very complicated. Here to tell us about them is our chief engineer, Mr. Claire Hannawalt. Claire?
Thank you, Tom. As you might suspect, more than anything else perhaps, Master Control can be likened to a control center at Cape Kennedy. Here we have men wearing headsets, seated before rows of switches and other controls, many picture screens, whirling tape reels, even the familiar countdown. Here in Master Control is located about 80% of the television electronic equipment that we use in this building. And scattered over the some 2,000 square feet of floor area are many, let's call them islands, of picture-making equipment, film islands, videotape islands, and so on. And each of these many islands contributes something to every program that KGW TV produces. Also in Master Control here, we have many racks containing hundreds of amplifiers, thousands of transistors, even our own independent electronic clock system. And as an architectural note of interest, Tom, I might tell you that the suspended concrete floor that both you and I are standing on right now is only 2 inches thick. And that's not very thick. But in the future, as time goes along and we add new equipment, this will make it a lot easier to cut the new holes that the new equipment will require for wiring and for ventilation. But now let's take a closer look at some of the individual items of equipment. And here is Assistant Chief Engineer Andy Jordan to tell us about some of them.
Thanks, Claire.
Behind us, you will note the console. This is the Master Control video switcher. At this location, every picture is selected that eventually reaches the air, network, remote, studio, or tape. This is one of the videotape machines running here now, and at this location we delay shows for later release. This is one of the film islands, where we originate either black and white or color film. This is the Studio Live video control, the black and white on the left, and farther down the console you will note the controls for color cameras, such as for telescope. This is C-booth, the location or the announcer you so often hear but very seldom see. And that, Tom, is a rather brief rundown of Master Control.
A good one. Thank you, Andy. You spoke about studio controls. What can we see there, and who will tell us about them, Claire?
Upstairs in Studio A control room, we have Assistant Chief Engineer Tom Krieb, who will tell us about just one of our new items of equipment.
Thank you, Claire. We're here in Studio A control room to give a demonstration of our special effects. Frank Winicky at the switcher is going to do a little special effects from one camera to another. We're going to go from the shot of the control room to the lobby. Now from the lobby, we're going back to Master Control. And then from Master Control, back up into Studio A control with a shot of the overall section of the control room with all of the monitors with the various sources of video. And now we go down to Tom Dargan in the lobby.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now, as we complete our too-brief tour here in the lobby of Broadcast Center, let me once again introduce our Vice President and General Manager, Ansel Payne.
Thank you, Tom. It's unfortunate we've had all too short a time to go through the building. You've seen only a very small part of the equipment and the facilities we have here at KGW Broadcast Center. However, I think you will join with me in agreeing that there's been no effort spared to make this the type of facility that will maintain and guarantee excellence in our programming. Now, in the very near future, we're going to open the building for tours, and if you, your family, an organization to which you belong, wish to go through the building, if you would call first, you are certainly welcome to do so. And we will look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you.
This program, Building for the Future, has been produced and presented by the entire staff of KGW Television and KGW Radio.